Hey everybody, Bob Olson here with Afterlife TV. You can find us at afterlifetv.com. This is where we search for evidence of life after death and ask the meaningful questions around that subject. Today we're going to talk about predictions. This is a video report where I talk directly to you about a particular subject, and I also do video conversations where I have conversations with other experts in the field. Today we're going to talk about predictions because as founder of bestpsychicmediums.com, bestpsychicdirectory.com, I get lots of emails from people who are confused around the predictions that they have had from different psychics and mediums. Usually it's related to psychics. Sometimes a medium will come through using their psychic ability to give a prediction, or even people in spirit will give a message that has something to do with the future. But in most cases, when we're talking about predictions, we're really thinking about psychic readings. Basically, for me, when you go for a psychic reading, I feel like the greatest purpose of that is to confirm what your own intuition is already telling you. All right. So if I have a psychic reading, that's why I would want a prediction, because I'm already feeling something. I might seek some advice or guidance in a certain direction, but I already know what my gut is telling me to do. It's just nice sometimes to have another person who has a great ability, intuitive ability, to sort of give me a second opinion. Really think of it in that way. It's like a second opinion. Yes, this is what I'm getting from the universal energy as well. And in some cases, again, it might be mediumship. Your loved one of your guides, one of your deceased loved ones is giving you this message that would be a good move. It's sort of a prediction in that way. And again, if that's what you're feeling, then it just confirms what you're feeling. If it goes against what you're feeling, well, we're going to talk about that. A lot of people have just wondered, when they get a message in a reading, a prediction in a reading, that something's going to happen in August, and then August rolls around, and before you know it, it's gone, and now it's September. People are like thinking, what am I supposed to make of this? They predicted that this event was going to occur in the month of August. Now it's September. Did I get ripped off? Are they a phony? What am I supposed to think of it? And sometimes it does happen, but it happens a little differently than the psychic predicted. There's a lot of different possibilities here. And so that's why we're going to talk about this today, maybe add a little bit more insight for you. First of all, I do want to say that not all psychics give predictions, because there are some out there who don't like predictions and make a point not to give them because some people are fearful of them. In most cases, their website or on bestpsychicdirectory.com, their directory page will state that they do not give predictions, so you'll know ahead of time. You might, if you don't want predictions, that would be the person to go to, obviously. But for those who do, I just want you to think of predictions as a snapshot in time, okay? And I've used this in things that I've written before. If you can think of the psychic as looking through the windshield of the car that you're in, the vehicle that you're in, it's heading in a certain direction. And that is what a psychic is able to see when they're giving you a reading, is what direction you're going in. That would be the snapshot in time that they're taking. They might see from a higher perspective, but they're still, even if they were looking down at your car and on a map of some sort, they would be looking down at it at a moment in time, taking that snapshot, taking that photograph. And that's what they can see. They can only see the direction you're going at that very moment. Now, you could hang up the phone, and maybe because of something that was said in that reading, all of a sudden you're different. You think different. You're going to act differently than you were before the reading. And as a result, if you are in that vehicle, if you are driving that vehicle, because we're all driving the vehicles that are our bodies, you might make a turn. You might make a left turn, a right turn. And that could be immediately after the reading, you see, after that snapshot was taken, which is the prediction. So as a result, and this is what we call free will, you have free will to change your mind about things, to change the way you think, to change the way you act. And this is why predictions don't always come true, because you change. Now, you might have changed because the prediction was given that this is what was going to happen, and maybe you didn't want that. So you purposely made a choice to act differently, to do things differently, or even to think differently. Maybe you were happy that it was going to happen, but there are other people involved. Now, if other people are involved, they have free will as well. And maybe their free will caused them to veer in one direction or another that was different than what the psychic saw at that moment in time when they were giving you the reading. Okay? And so free will changes predictions. Your free will, certainly in reference to predictions that were given to you but during a reading. But if there are other people involved, related to the prediction that was given, their free will can affect it as well. All right? So free will can alter the outcome of the time frame. It can change the outcome of, the circumstances. It might not happen at all as a result of free will, and it might happen, completely differently than was predicted. Give you a couple examples. A lot of people are looking for predictions about a romantic relationship. So this is where two people are definitely involved. Someone maybe wants to get back together with a former boyfriend or girlfriend. They're asking the psychic if that's going to happen. The psychic might say at this moment in time, often they don't use this phrase in this moment in time, but really that's what they mean. In this moment in time, I see that, yes, you're going to get together. And that person might be very excited about that, not realizing that the other person's free will is involved too. And if that person doesn't want to get back together, then it's probably not going to happen. Another great example is, getting a job. A lot of people will go to a psychic, ask about whether they're going to get a job that they want. And again, there's other people involved in that particular decision. So in that snapshot in time, maybe it looks like you're going to get it. You get very excited about it, and it doesn't happen for one reason or another. It might be something that you even did after that reading. Perhaps it was an email that you sent or an interview that you had that you didn't do very well on. It might have been something that you said to your potential employer on the phone or in person that changed the way they think about giving you the job, and therefore you were able to use their free will to not give it to you. So this is the way predictions work. If you really just think of them as a snapshot in time, that's the safest way to look at a prediction, so that you're not changing your entire life around something that a psychic or even a medium has told you. The best advice I can give you is when it comes to predictions, in addition to what I've already said, you also want to know if what they're telling you resonates with you. All right. So if you've had a gut feeling, if you've had an intuitive feeling that something is going to happen in a particular way, even at a particular time, and the psychic now is giving you a reading, and you might ask them about it, you might not, they might bring it up on their own, but they're giving you a completely different scenario, and it just doesn't feel right to you, I would trust what you're feeling rather than what the psychic is telling you, for the main reason that you know more about your life. You know more about what's going on. And in many cases, they're just making an interpretation on what they're getting. And so you your interpretation of what's happening in your life is going to be more accurate, is likely to be more accurate than what they're giving you. Now, is this true in every circumstance? No, and there are certain reasons why, and I'll tell you. One of them is that there's a fine line between what you wish will happen and what you feel intuitively will happen. Sometimes what you wish will happen will get in the way. And so in that particular case, and I've seen this many, many times, you want something to happen so bad that you ignore your intuitive feelings about it, all right? You push that aside, and you go into maybe a little bit of a denial, all right? In fact, I've seen many people who have gone to more than one psychic, maybe 3 or 4 or more, until they get the answer that they want. Now, if you've ever done that, or if you do that in the future, you're just manipulating yourself. You know, you're in denial because if you've already got 3 or 4 people with a great intuitive ability who have told you one thing, there's a pretty high probability that that's the way it's going to happen, at least at that snapshot in time, right? If you just keep searching for a psychic to tell you otherwise, so you got, 3 or 4 people over here, including your own feeling, you do know, but if you want to deny that, what you're feeling and what those people are telling you for what this one person is going to tell you because that was the answer you were looking for, you're manipulating yourself, which is a form of denial. All right. There's another issue here that really is a much deeper situation. Spiritually, this is a deeper subject, and it's really important. So sometimes what happens is people are given a prediction. Let me give you an example. They're given a prediction that will say, you're going to get a particular job, or you're going to move to another place. Let's use the moving example. So you move to another location, might be across town, might be across the country, might be across the world. You go there and you're miserable. You hate it. It's horrible. All kinds of negative things happen now that you're in this new location. And you blame it on the psychic. Because a lot of people think that when the psychic is either giving the prediction that you're going to make this move, they think that it means it's because it's going to be all warm and fuzzy. And a lot of times what they're seeing is, yes, this is what's going to happen, but the prediction is leading to growth. All right? So a lot of times, you might get fired from a job. Oh, why didn't the psychic tell me about that? You know what I mean? Well, again, what happens from the moment that you hang up that phone or leave their office or house after the reading, has to do with your free will, and it changes things instantly. So in that case, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, well, what's the point then? What's the point in the predictions? And it's true. There's a reality to it. To me, again, we'll go back. The point is, it's a second opinion. It helps you confirm what your own intuition is telling you. But when something happens that was predicted and it is true, but it didn't turn out to be a positive experience, there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with the psychic. The psychic did their job. They told you what was going to happen, and in fact, it is a positive thing, but it's just not a positive experience, you see? A lot of times negative experiences lead us to growth in our life, personal growth, spiritual growth, and we never really realize how many people have been fired from jobs only to then go and get a better job, one that was more fulfilling, more enjoyable, and maybe they even made more money. So these kinds of things happen every day, don't blame it on the psychic. If it turns out to be a negative experience, it actually would be better to just feel as though, hey, maybe this is going to lead to something better. Certainly a better mindset to have when anything like that happens in our lifetime, okay? When a psychic predicts something and it doesn't resonate with you at all, here's some of the reasons why that might happen. One, it could just be a misinterpretation. I talked about interpretations earlier. Interpretations are different from just giving you the message. All right? I always tell psychics and mediums, especially mediums, just give what you're seeing or you're hearing or you're feeling. Even with psychics, though, just tell them what you're getting. Tell them the message that you're getting rather than make the interpretation of it, because it's actually better for the client or the sitter or the person getting the reading to make that interpretation than it is for the psychic to do it, or even the medium in most cases. All right? And I'll give you a great example. I'm going to use an example that is more to do with mediumship than a psychic reading. But so there was a reading where the medium was getting from spirit, someone in spirit, to say the name, say the word coffee. And so, okay, coffee. Rather than just saying they're telling me to say coffee, the medium instead said, I'm getting that you drink a lot of coffee. And the person's like, no, I don't drink a lot of coffee. And so then they started sort of guessing as to what else it might be. And finally, they backed off and said, all right, let me just tell you the message that I'm getting. The message is just coffee. I don't know what it means. Well, it turned out that the person's cat was named Coffee. And in addition to that, they had taken the cat into their home because the person who passed, it was their cat and it didn't have a home, and they took it. And so this cat that was named Coffee was actually belonged to the person in spirit. A real powerful message, right? Except when the medium was trying to make the interpretation rather than just give the message, they messed it all up. It would have been powerful. It would have been amazing. Instead, it just kind of flopped. And even when they backed up later, you can see how that wouldn't be as effective. So that's one of the reasons that a prediction might not resonate with you, is because the prediction that the psychic is getting, the information they're getting about the future, and they're giving to you, rather than just tell you what they're seeing in their mind's eye or feeling, they're making an interpretation about it, and it's wrong. Okay, the message is usually correct, but rather than just give you what they're seeing or feeling or whatever, they're making an interpretation about it. Again, the other reason is it could be directed toward growth. So it doesn't resonate with you because who wants to go through any kind of a negative experience, even if it's going to come out and end up being better for you in the long run, whether that be days or weeks or months or years later, right? None of us want to go through any kind of a negative experience. So that probably, as a result, getting a message that is going to lead to something negative, like, maybe the breakup of a relationship or something like that you don't want to end, even if it could lead to growth and better things down the line, and it would be better for you, that's certainly nothing you want to hear. So that's not going to resonate with you. And then also this idea of, you're just in denial. Your intuition is telling you that this is what's going to happen in the future. You feel it yourself in your gut, but You don't want to think of that either. Maybe it's not because it's negative, but it's just not what you want. I'll give you an example. This is a common example. Someone wants to have an affair with somebody. So they want the psychic to tell them that they're going to be with this other person in the future because that's what they want. Whether it be lust or whatever is causing them to want that so much, they go into denial about what their gut is actually telling them, which is, this doesn't feel right. Maybe I shouldn't do this. And if the psychic is then telling them, this is not the right thing, this is what I'm seeing that you should do, which can be in the form of a prediction, you can go into denial and say, well, that's wrong. I'm going to go to another psychic. Anyways, so that can happen a lot. I talked earlier about, the purpose of predictions. And I also think that, really it's about training us to trust in our own inner wisdom. That can be the power of having a reading with a psychic, is not only does it now resonate what we've been feeling all along ourselves anyways, but then it trains us to trust that, so that, and I know this might sound silly coming from me, but this is what it's all about, is get to the point where you don't need to have readings anymore. I've always felt that. I felt that, after my first reading in 1999, I think the research that I was doing with psychics and mediums in that first year, I recognized that working with practitioners in this way can just be a stepping stone to us learning to trust our own inner wisdom and not needing a third party like a psychic to, tell us about our lives anymore. We all have the ability. I personally don't pay a lot of attention. Let me just say that a different way. I actually personally don't give a lot of weight to a prediction when I get it in a reading. So when I'm getting a reading and predictions are given, I don't give them a lot of weight. I don't think of them as being very significant, but I do take them into account, and I'll place them into the back of my mind, and just in case there's other messages that I get along the way that are the same or are similar, and then I start to pay attention to them. Okay, does that make sense to you? I'm going to give a great example. This is a true story. I had a reading, and I was testing a psychic, and the psychic told me that it's possible that my wife, Melissa, might end up being diagnosed with breast cancer. Okay, again, now this isn't something that I wanted to hear. It's not something that I recommend that psychics do. This person did not pass my test, okay, for this reason and many others. But this is what they told me. All right, so this goes into the back of my mind. There were other things. The psychic wasn't horrible. It's just, and if the person was, then I probably wouldn't have paid any attention at all. But I knew the person had an ability. It needed work. There was a lot of growth there that could happen. So anyways, I take this reading, I take this prediction, and then the next thing that happens is I'm testing an astrologer. I'm having an astrology reading, and the same thing comes through, is that the potential existed. Now, astrology readings are a little bit different. The potential existed that Melissa, my wife, might end up with a challenge that seems very similar to breast cancer, what someone might go through in terms of breast cancer. All right. I don't know how they make these determinations. I'm not an astrologer, but there was number 2, right? I place that in the back of my mind. I tell Melissa about these things. She's aware of them as well. She thinks the same way as I do. We don't panic. We don't necessarily like it to hear these sorts of things, but we also recognize these kinds of predictions come and go. You wouldn't believe how many of them that I have had that never came true. So as a result, I don't give a lot of weight to them. But now 2 things have happened. All right. Third thing that happens, and this is over time. This is over a matter of weeks, maybe a couple of months. All of a sudden, Melissa starts running into this person that we rarely see. This is in town. This is in our town. But we never see this person. She sees her at the post office. She sees her at another store. She sees her. Over the course of a couple of weeks, I think she saw her 3 times, which was odd. Melissa comes home. She says, I saw her again. And I said, Melissa, what does she represent to you? What message might there be for you in seeing her? Is there some message that, that you might gain from this? When you think of her, what does she represent? And she said, well, she helped my sister with her breast cancer. So that's what I think of. And that was the third message that we got, in which Melissa then decided, well, maybe I should go to the doctor and get this checked out. And in fact, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, treated naturally. This was in 2008. Treated naturally, and she's fine. She's fine, okay? Just for those people who are concerned, and I appreciate your concern and compassion, and Melissa's 100% healthy today. Did not have surgery or anything. So anyways, that is how I pay attention to predictions. I don't act on them instantly. I don't lose sleep over them. I just use them as maybe some evidence or, a message, and look for more. And that's all you have to do is, if you get a message like that from a psychic, you can just say, well, look, you can just ask the universe. I'm not going to panic over this one prediction that was made, but if this is something that I'm supposed to know about, please send me more signs. Please send me more messages in other ways. Okay? Not from psychics, more and more and more psychics. You don't necessarily have to go that route, just, in other ways, as happened in that story that I just told you. I also want to talk a little bit about some of the inappropriate predictions, what I deem as inappropriate, and one is related to that past example is diagnosing something medical with someone. All right, even if you're a medical intuitive should say, I see, something happen energetically with your arm, or with your breasts, or with your back, whatever it may be. It has the energy that leads me to think that you should, maybe go get it checked out. I really think it's important that nobody is diagnosing anything, even if you are a registered nurse, even if you are an MD. You can use it in the reverse. If you're a doctor, if you're a medical doctor, you can use your intuition in your work. I'm sure most of them do. Maybe without even realizing it, that's different. If you're acting as a psychic and giving a reading, even if you're a medical doctor, people come to you as a psychic, not as a doctor, then I think diagnosing something medical is really inappropriate. All right, shouldn't be done. It's really inappropriate to predict that someone's going to die. Whether that be whether that be you or me who's getting a reading, whether that be it's somebody that we know, whatever it may be, predicting that someone is going to die is horribly inappropriate. And in making predictions, it's inappropriate to use the words need to or should when making a prediction. Okay? It takes the person's power away. There's psychics and mediums really need to use great responsibility when giving a reading, because of the power that people often give them, thinking that they are all-knowing. Now, I know, and every psychic and medium that I work with knows that they are not all-knowing and that they do make mistakes. But But a lot of the clients that go to these people don't always recognize that, and they give them an immense amount of power over their lives. And so therefore, when a psychic is telling someone that they need to do something, you need to move to California. You need to quit your job. You should break up with that guy. That's inappropriate, okay? Now, I'm not saying that people who are that I recommend or that are on my directory that they don't do these things. You know, people do these things, and I'm telling you about it now so that you can recognize that, you know, it's inappropriate behavior, and I don't think it should be done, and I think you should, you know, be your own advocate and therefore watch out for these things and don't allow it. Don't allow people to do it. The problem is, you know, predictions alone can be scary. They can be confusing to people, which is why I'm doing this video. They can be paralyzing. A prediction can paralyze you so that you don't move forward anymore, just out of fear alone. And that's why I'm talking to you today about this. That's why I'm explaining the things. Don't let the one prediction that came true in the story that I told you about my wife Melissa make you think that all predictions are like that. They're not. Again, I'll repeat what I just said a few minutes ago. I've had, and I'm not kidding, probably hundreds of predictions. Actually, I will tell you, honestly, I've had more predictions that have not come true than I've had come true. All right? That's just me being honest with you. More that haven't than have. All right? It's the way it works. And I have had readings with hundreds of psychics and mediums from around the world. So that's just the way it works, and it's something that everybody should know, and you should, you know, just allow the predictions to help you to sort of get in touch with your own intuition, confirm what you're feeling, use it as a second opinion. I'll tell you a little story about the power of suggestion, because that's what predictions can do. They hold the power of suggestion. There's an old story, you probably heard it before, of anybody who ever took psychology, maybe even high school, definitely in college. Old story about how some students, psychology students, were going to do an experiment about the power of suggestion. They decided on their own that they were going to tell their teacher, whenever they saw him in the hallways or whatever around the school, that he didn't look good, that they would ask him if he was sick. And that's what they did. They were like, hey, are you okay? You're not looking very good. And in different ways, they did that throughout the day. And by the end of the day, that teacher actually was physically sick. That is the power of suggestion. Now, of course, in that case, he had lots of people telling him the same thing. It's not just one, but just one person, because psychics and mediums, to many people, know so much and are potentially all-knowing. They're not, but people often think that they are. They give their power away, and if a psychic or a medium made a prediction that suggested something was going to come true, a lot of times the power of suggestion alone can make that happen. All right? And you want to watch out for that as well. You don't want to just make something happen because it was predicted to you. All right? And you can do that unconsciously. So, all right. The last thing I just want to say is that if you don't want predictions, and you don't need to fear them, most of them are not scary. Most of them are not, anyone telling you or you're going to die or somebody else is going to die or that you're going to get, this horrible illness or something. In most cases, it's never like that. But if you don't want them, tell the psychic or medium ahead of time you don't want any predictions, and ask that they abide by that. All right? It's important, and most of them will do that. All right. That's all I have to say. I'm sure there's a lot more, but that's all I have to say today about predictions. I hope it was helpful to you, and thanks for watching Afterlife TV.